My name is Charlotte and welcome back to Studio Astrig. So far in this room, we've made these beautiful built-ins, we've added these gorgeous pocket doors, and I've built my partner their dream workstation. But now it's time for my corner of the office. When we moved here, I put together this little desk in hopes that one day I would be well enough to use it, but that day has not come. With ME/CFS and POTS, I can only handle short periods of computer work, and being able to recline in this rocking chair is so much less fatiguing for me. So we're going to start this makeover by rearranging the space and putting the rocking chair at the center of things. If you're ever thinking of making over somewhere in your house, definitely start by rearranging the furniture and see how it changes the flow of the space and the feel of the space, because this feels so much better. Just by not having a window behind my head and not being able to see what my partner's working on all the time, I feel so cozy and private. I love this corner now. But there are quite a few more things I want to do to make this corner feel extra special. So that is my tuck box. Any British boarding school folks out there know what I'm talking about. I do like the look of it, obviously not the pink, but I'm attached to it and I feel nostalgic about that, so that's staying. We're going to repaint it and then I'm going to add a cushion on top of it so I can drag it over and use it as a footstool. And maybe it'll turn into a dog bed, as many things here tend to. This stationery unit here, I've had it since I was 19. It works perfectly, but it is quite ugly. So I'm going to clad all of the drawer fronts and all the way around the sides with more of that walnut veneered MDF that I used on Bee's desk and replace the handles on it, so it will look totally transformed but do the same job. For this wall, I'm going to make some little shelves for some books, and I'm going to put some artwork behind me. And then I have this sounding lamp, which is very practical, but I don't really like the look of it, so I'm going to see if I can replace that, or I might make a little shelf for a table lamp here. But before any of those projects, I want to start with this rocking chair, which I obviously love, but I bought it secondhand and it has really, really sad cushions under it. They are this ugly brown and they are very limp, so I have bought some new cushion pads and we are going to learn some upholstery to recover them. I'm going to be making some piped box cushions using this gorgeous fabric. This is from Linwood and my mum helped me source it. I have never done any upholstery before, but I have watched every single YouTube tutorial I could find on making these, and I will link the two that I found most helpful down in the description. Yesterday I cut all of my pieces and I also practiced making some piping. I am very comfortable with the sewing machine because I used to make a lot of my own clothes, but I was a bit worried about working with fabric this thick. But then I bought a special foot for my sewing machine called a piping foot. It has this little groove for the piping to sit in, and it made making this piping so easy. I did have to open up my machine to be able to raise the position of the piping foot so that I would fit in with like 6 layers of this, but now it is all set up and ready to go. The reverse of this fabric is an invert of the pattern. So I did make an example using the reverse side for the piping, and I like the contrast. I think it looks really good, but I think I'm going to settle on doing it all the same, because if I make any mistakes it'll be a lot less obvious. The first thing I'm going to do is make all of the piping, and then I will start attaching it to the front and back of each cushion. I really thought I was going to finish these cushions in one day, but after sewing all of the piping to the faces, I just totally ran out of energy. I think maybe the sound of the sewing machine was a bit overstimulating for me, but whatever, we persist into another day. Next up we have zips. I got a zip that is totally the wrong colour, but you won't really be able to see it, so it doesn't matter. I'm going to sew the zips to these thin strips and then attach them to these thicker borders, and this is going to be the thing that runs around the side of the cushion and connects the two faces. Okay, step 1 complete. The next step is obviously to sew the other face in, but I have a little hack that I'm going to do before that. I have cut little notches in the midway points on each of the 4 sides of each face. And then I'm going to transfer those notches to the other side of the border, and getting them to line up with the notches on the other face will make sure that they stay aligned and we're not kind of twisting as we go. I've made both of the cushions. It is time to turn them inside out and see if they've been successful. This is hard sofa foam covered in Dacron, and it is the exact same size as my cushion covers. Okay, preemptively, I know this is gonna be exhausting. Can I just get my partner to do it? B, can you come here for a sec? Wow, these are a lot thicker than my old cushions, so I'm sitting a lot higher, but that means the armrests are a bit lower, which I actually think is quite nice. Like, they're perfectly level with my elbows if I'm typing. Making these cushions was a raging success, I would say. It didn't actually take too long. I didn't have any issues making them, and I don't know why I was so intimidated about making cushions. I would definitely say if you are like an intermediate sewer, pipe box cushions, especially if you have a piping foot, totally achievable. These would have cost hundreds and hundreds of pounds for me to get them made bespoke, and it took me 3 half days and 40 quid's worth of foam. My next project is to spruce up these stationery drawers, so I will see you in the workshop. Here we are in the workshop. I haven't been here for about a month, and I always forget how amazingly cool it is that I have a dedicated space to work out of and make things. I am very thankful for that. So I have brought the stationery drawers with me. I didn't want to unpack all of the actual drawers though, so I just bought one for sizing. And the plan is that we're going to clad it with this walnut veneered MDF that I used on B's desk in my last video. I'm going to cut out big panels for the sides and the top, and I'm going to mitre the corner so it kind of looks like it's overflowing. I can't do a proper waterfall effect because I don't have enough wood anymore, but that will look nice, and then I won't have any edge banding on the top or on the sides there. Then for the drawer fronts, I'm going to do them a bit wider so they cover this white edge, and I will add some filler strips on the top and bottom to cover those pieces. So we have a lot of cutting and edge banding to do. Let's get going with it. I cut the sheet into strips that match the depth of the unit and chose a particularly nice symmetrical piece for the drawer fronts. I edge banded all of the long ends, and then I cut the drawer front panel into the individual drawers and filler pieces at the mitre saw. I then had to edge band all of the new exposed edges, so I nailed some pieces of scrap into my workbench so that I wouldn't have to clamp down the pieces as I was working on them. Then I set my table saw at a 45-degree angle to cut the mitered joins for the top and the sides, and to attach the panels I used Gorilla Glue. I laid the unit upside down so gravity would help pull those mitered joins together, and while I was clamping I kept checking that all of the sides extended from the front by the thickness of the drawer fronts. It is just too hot to wear dungarees today, so I'm ruining the illusion that I did all of this in one day. But this is where we're at now. The drawer fronts are just taped on at the minute. They're not secured, but I just wanted to see what it all looked like together. For handles, I'm going to use these antique brass ones that I was going to use on my IKEA Ivar hack, but chose not to. They're a good size for these drawers, and they will look really nice once it's all oiled up. To help me put the handles on, I've made this little jig out of scrap wood. So I drew out the exact size of these drawer fronts and where I need to drill the holes for the handles. And then on the back, I also need to drill holes through the metal of the drawer fronts because it doesn't line up where the original handles are. So I nailed on some bits of wood so that this slides perfectly on the front in the perfect position. Because the metal's so thin and also the drawer fronts are so thin, I can't screw them in from the back, but I should be able to clamp them on decently with just the handles. The final thing I want to do in the workshop for this is I want to make some little feet for it. In the office, we have the tuck box that's going to be sitting directly on the floor, and then having this big lump straight on the floor as well is going to feel a bit blocky, and lifting up even by a little bit is going to make it feel much lighter. So I am going to take this block of walnut and cut some chunks out for the corners. But first I'm going to drill the holes for the handles and then get this thing oiled so I can hopefully take it home and install it today. It is hard to capture on camera how good this looks, but it looks So good. You walk in the door and you see that beautiful colour and these beautiful handles, and it's hard to believe that there's a cheap metal set of drawers under there. Although it has kind of drawn attention to my cable situation, so we're definitely going to have to resolve that before this whole space is finished. But next I'm going to add up some prints behind me. These are prototype prints I had framed for my generative art project ceramics. I'm not sure if the colours are going to work very well in this corner, so I might generate some more outputs and swap them out, but I like how these frames will fill the space behind me, so I'm definitely going to keep them. I thought this would be an easy win, but I hate them. I think they look terrible. I don't know why. I need to sit and reflect. I sat and reflected and realised it was just the artwork that was throwing me off, so I've ordered some new prints that will fit better into the scheme and pull out some accents, and I'm feeling much more confident about that now. We are here in the workshop to work on the little shelves. In my last video, I made these nice decorative shelf brackets for the alcove the other side of the fireplace. This time, instead of having brackets that sit underneath the shelves, I'm going to flip them round and make more kind of U-shaped shelves, and that means they have built-in bookends. Of course, I spent a while fiddling around with drawings because I didn't want to use the exact same shape, but I wanted it to be in the similar family, and I came up with this. For the material for the shelves, I have two leftover IKEA Ivar shelves. So these are laminated knotty pine. They're not the best quality, but I may as well try and use them up. I did try and take these metal brackets off with pliers. That didn't go well. So first step, I'm going to have to trim them down, and then I can cut them into the shelf pieces. The edges of this are already beveled, so I'm going to use that for the bottom of each shelf and then cut my brackets out of the middle section. And I have already made my template out of scrap MDF, and I've made this all perfect. So just like in my last video, I'm going to rough cut all of these shapes, and then I can use my templating bit and my router to cut them all to match. By the way, I have been saying router this whole time. I know that Americans call it router, but they also call roots routes, so I assumed that it was router in the UK. But no, it's pronounced router and a route over here, and it has a separate etymology to the word root. So now we all know. Let's get going with all that, and then I can show you the extra special decorative detail I'm going to make for these. I did not have much energy to do things yesterday. All I managed was to rough cut all of my brackets, but today I have tons of energy. I started by trimming all the brackets with the router, and they look so cute, but we're going to level it up even more. I definitely saw this in a short or something, and I couldn't find it for the life of me. So if you know where I found this idea, leave a comment and I will pin it. But the idea is to use a hole saw to make little quatrefoil or like clover shapes. Because these brackets are also functioning as bookends, I think having little cutouts in them to show the book behind will look really cute. I don't feel enormously confident about the technique, and I think you have to be really precise for them to look even. So I'm going to do some practices on a bit of scrap first. When I was printing my template, I also printed out a version that showed the center points of each of the circles on the shape I want. So I'm going to transfer them to this bit and use a 29mm hole saw to hopefully make this effect. It is a nice shape, no denying, but it will require quite a lot of sanding, and it's so annoying using a hole saw because you have to like pop out the bit of wood that gets stuck in the middle. I'm going to try another example using a Forstner bit instead, so that will cut out all of the wood. I think once again I've underestimated the amount of effort needed for a small decorative detail, but man, it looks so cute! Can you imagine with the little cutout in the middle? I think I'm going to go for it. I think I'm going to use my Forstner bit and just lock in. I had varying success with the Forstner bit. It was really great at the start, but on the fourth hole it kept wandering in, and it also made quite a lot of tear out on the back of the pieces. But the hole saw bit I was using was a little bit smaller than the Forstner bit, so I was able to tape some sandpaper around that and use it to clean up all the holes. I also decided to chamfer all of the edges, which disguises some of that tear out and matches the front edge of the shelves. And my final router job was to cut these slots out for these little keyhole hangers. I made a little jig using the bandsaw, which made this super easy, and that means that the shelves will be able to sit flush against the wall with no visible fixings. So now we have all these pieces, and I'm going to stain them before we assemble them. This is a dark oak stain, and I'm a little worried because I don't have any wood conditioner, so these might come out really patchy, but we're going to try it, and I can always do a paint wash over them to even out the color if need be. I did 3 coats of the stain and I think it looks pretty nice. It's a satin finish, the coverage is quite good. The only problems are on the ones with lots of tear out. They do not look good, and annoyingly most of them are on the side that will be facing the room, but I think I can order them in a way to mostly disguise that. Now it's time to assemble them, and I'm going to use glue and dowels to secure the ends onto the base like that. I got this new tool called a dowel master, which was quite cheap considering how much it does. I'm going to start by drilling the holes in all of the ends of the base pieces before I move on to drilling them in the sides of the brackets. Okay, it's taken me a hot minute to figure out how to do this effectively, but I have got one perfectly dry fitted piece, and we're gonna do the second one together. So I want it to fit together like this, which means I need to drill holes in there and there. Let's start with this one. So imagine this wants to go in there. We're just gonna lie it flat on top. Okay, and I need to line it up so the back edge of the bracket is perfectly in line with the back edge of the base piece, and then I'm going to clamp these down. One thing that's kind of annoying about this is that I have spaced my dowels quite close together, so I can't do all of them at once with this because the other pegs get in the way. So I'm going to take out the middle one and do the 2 side ones first. I registered this back piece against the piece that already has the dowels in it. So I know that if I drill through any of these holes, it will be exactly in the middle of the piece that's butting up against it. And then the existing dowels I have in there can slot into this hole, so that determines the right position this way. I've also set the depth stop, so the amount that is protruding won't go through the piece, but is enough for the dowels to sit in. And then I'm going to take this one out and put it in the middle one. And now magically, these all align, and it's also perfectly flush underneath. I'm going to do the rest of these now, and once I'm happy with the dry fit, I will take them apart and add glue and clamp them together, and then they will be ready to install. I brought the shelves home ready to put up, but I want to show you what else I've changed in this space. So I moved the plant that was there to over here. There's a bit of weird negative space here. Hopefully that will fill out eventually. But yeah, I stole this plant from the kitchen and put it on this adorable little stool, which is good because it hides the cables much better, and then it also makes it much easier for me to reach the surface from the chair. Also, while I was in the workshop, I painted the tuck box. It is not perfectly painted. There's still bits of pink some places, but it is a lot better. Also backstage, I made this box cushion to go on top of it. But I am aware that this looks absolutely ridiculous. Like, why is there a cushion on this trunk? But I think I have an idea to make it a bit more integrated. So in old travel trunks, they'd often be fastened using leather straps. So I thought maybe I could belt these two together to make it look like one unit. I looked so hard to find secondhand belts for this, but it needed to be a 5XL size, and finding one of them, let alone 2 matching ones, was simply impossible. So I had to buy new. These black leather belts are from Big Dude Clothing. I really like this metal detail at the end of the strap, but all of the hardware was silver, and I thought that would look a bit weird with this. So I used some antique gold rub and buff to make them match a little bit better. But yeah, let's put these on and see if this idea works. You know what, I think I could have gotten away with 4XL there. I'm aware that this is not everybody's taste, but coming into this room and seeing this trunk at the end of the room, I think it looks pretty cool, and I like it, and I'm keeping it. I also want to shout out DIY Danny, who used belts to strap some books to a bench in a makeover she did like a year ago. I'll leave a link to it. That definitely planted the seed that I could use belts in interiors projects. Okay, we are almost finished here. Next up, I'm going to swap out those art prints on the wall. I need to mount the shelves and style them, and there might be 1 or 2 other little things I do before I show you the final reveal of the space. I didn't really explain the series of artwork earlier. I released this project in 2023, and before AI ruined the word generative, it used to mean a system that could produce lots of variants based on a single source. I wrote a program that mimics the effect of carving out a block of clay. So I wrote a bunch of code to describe what types of clay and firing states would look like. I wrote a system to generate the strokes that make up the composition, and also coded special effects like different glazes and the mishma inlays that you can see in some of these pieces. I originally released 300 unique artworks as NFTs on a prestigious platform called Art Blocks, but this script has the ability to generate infinite variations. So I exported another 1,000 or so and selected 6 that I thought would work nicely in this corner. If you want to hear more about this project, I will leave a link in the description below.
And I may as well continue this voiceover to explain what else I did in the space. So the shelves went up really easily, and it was finally time for me to unbox all of my penguin mini collections that I love so much. I also repotted a pothos to go on the top shelf, which dangles down the back and looks really cute. I felt like the space wasn't feeling busy enough, so I framed some old postcards. But one of the frames was damaged and they all looked a little flat, so I painted it to match the built-ins, and I used a paint marker to draw some vines onto it. And then I went back to the top shelf and added this little brass lamp I got for £5 off Marketplace. I had this gorgeous Ian Sanderson fabric and I was going to use it to make a lampshade for a standing lamp, but I just couldn't find the standing lamp of my dreams, so I've left that silver reading light as is, but I thought I could use this lovely fabric to recover the lampshade of the tiny lamp. I used spray mount to glue the fabric to the existing shade, and once I rolled the top and bottom edges in, it looked so professional. Having a lamp that high up does look kind of odd, so I might swap it out in the future, but for now I think it looks really cute. Do you remember how empty and impractical this space was at the start of this video? Let me show you what it looks like now.
And there we have it. I absolutely love working in this little nook. It is so amazing. I have everything at my fingertips. I have my devices here. I've got all my stationery here, and I love dragging over the tuck box and using it as a footstool. Besides the practicalities, it really feels like this corner is a reflection of my taste now. Like almost everything you see has been either customized or built totally from scratch by me. I think these little shelves are the highlight of the project for me. I think they came out so beautifully. I'm totally obsessed with them. Also, something else I didn't address in the video at all, but this fireplace used to be painted and it was rusting, and I figured while I was working on the rest of this room, I may as well fix that up as well. So I took our two fireplaces to get sandblasted, and then I polished them with this iron paste, and now they just look phenomenal. The only things that feel not quite finished in this space is that, as I said, I would really like to replace this lamp. And also I know so many people are going to be like, you need to put up some curtains or some blinds or something. This entire bay window was meant to be replaced months ago and it just hasn't happened yet. But trust me, I have some really pretty blinds that will go here and will add a lot of softness and texture to the room. So make sure you go follow me on Instagram, because I will be sharing final photos of this space once this big white blob turns into something more interesting. Also on Instagram, you'll be able to see what this mysterious postcard is. If you'd like to support the channel and watch a bunch of bonus content, please check out our Patreon. And otherwise, I will see you in the next one, where we will be finally leaving this room.